All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of my GEMP game review series. I am your host, Chris Gogolin. It is coming up on the middle, just past the midway point of July here. So we still have about 10 days left in OCS time, just a little over 10 days. It's about to move to the 21st here in server time. Thank you all for tuning in and joining in on the show tonight. Online play week just came to an end. Hopefully, you guys all submitted your emails with your game links to the volunteers' email address, so way you can get the foils. What did I do with the foil? If you didn't see it, so this is what you were playing for. Ah, move the wrong thing. So this is what you were playing for. It was the Admiral Trench AI hologram foil, which looks really sharp, and the Captain Rex one, which looks pretty good too. Not as good as Trench, in my opinion. I think Trench is better. So that's the foils that you were playing for this week. So hopefully you got your game links submitted. They were due by this morning, and those will be included with the other foils that we have to mail to people, the OCS foils for the months. If you're in the OCS, if you did not participate in the OCS, you can still obviously be eligible to get those foils. They'll just be mailed out separately. And it'll probably just be a little tiny plain white envelope, with your handwritten name and address on it and just one stamp, as opposed to 4 or 5 months of OCS foils crammed into a bigger envelope. Of course, I'll show them off when you can. That's one of the perks of being me. There's a lot of perks to being me, but in Star Wars terms, this is one of the perks to being me, is having the foils to show the people. And thanks again to Kevin and his team for putting all these foils together, getting them cut out and getting them shipped out over to us, so that way we can start passing them on to all of you guys. Yeah, just waiting for the list now of the people who got the online play foils, so I can put those into the packages and then start getting the at least getting them mailed out to people. And maybe 1 or 2 batches I have to do them in, but they'll all get mailed out here in the next couple of weeks to everybody. So that's over now. The league is still open though, I guess for Batmouse's purposes. You can still get some in-game foils and prizes and other fun stuff like that. But speaking of leagues, let's do our weekly OCS standings update. See where we're at here for July. So it looks like Nick Reich went on a little bit of a run. He has kind of leapfrogged past everybody here. He is 10. That's 10 wins for 30 points, 10-2. Everybody else here is a nice little cluster of guys who are sitting at 9-3, who are kind of wondering whether or not they would hold up or not. But Nick went on a run, is now 10-2. He's got a fairly low win percentage though, but there's not a lot of activity on the bottom part of the board here. Of people, there's still some people who are in still good positions. You got Tom, who's right here, but this is now 7-3. So Tom could win his last 2 games. He's just going to get into this 30 pile. These guys, no. Justin's already qualified. He could obviously create, move in to block one of these spots out, but he would need somebody else who's already qualified also to get up into the top to create an extra at-large bid. Some people down here, this is what, 5-2? Obviously, if they win out all their remaining games, that would get them to 32 points, and they could certainly be in the mix here. Ryan's qualified before Surson. Ryan Jellison has certainly had some good, strong appearances over the years, some top 8 cuts, etc. And then you've got Apollyon and JagTech. Justin's been coming on a bit lately, Team High Ground. Give them a shout out. And Apollyon, one of the GEMP programmers, I believe he assists with that, as well as lead playtest, player card developer, I think, or lead playtester. He's got, he's got some responsibilities with wrangling all those cats over there. So He's having a good month as well here, off to a 5-2 start. All right, there's the benchmark. I just have to be better than that this month. All right, so I just have to win. No, I want more. I'm already better than that. Woo! I just have to play all my games. If I play all my games, I can't finish below Scott. Okay. Whew. But there are certainly still lots of people here with lots of games to play, and a lot of people on this side of the board that really haven't started playing yet. You know, Bastion's only played 3 games. That's unusual for him. Charlie's only played 2. Brian Fred's only played 2. Usually, I mean, Charlie a little bit. You know, by this time of the month, maybe he's at 5 or 6. B Fred's usually done by this time of the month. So seeing him with only 2 games played, Bastion with only 3 games played, Marines with only 1 game played, isn't he usually cranking them out at night? Yeah, he's in, but he still wants to obviously play his games, improve his standings, and you know there are very few people out there who are bigger foil whores than Brian Fred. So I'm sure he'd love to get his hands on some extra foil slips. Did I miss Werfs? Werfs is down here at 4-1. So thank you for pointing that out. But he certainly has some room, uh, some games left to go here. Same with Casey. Casey also at 4-1, still has some games left to play. Plenty of people down here, you know, Kessling 3-0, Chris Kelly 3-0, but they've got a lot of ground to make up. 9 games in 10 days when they've played 3 games in 20 days. You know, we've seen stranger things happen, but at the same point in time, I also feel like it's been just getting harder and harder to get OCS games in. It's like, you know, people used to wait toward the end of the month, and there's a big scramble with everybody trying to get uh, to 8 to get your foils and whatnot. And I don't know, that the last month or so, it feels different. It feels like something's changed, and like that hasn't quite been the case. So, but we'll see. And welcome back, Mike Gem, Profundity, uh, 2018 OCS finalist, Team KTOD. Played one game, came back, played 1 game, was very excited to get it. He was messaging me like, "Hey, I know you're in a game right now, but somebody's got an OCS game up right now, and I really want to play. Can you add me to the league?" Luckily, my game with Tom had just wrapped up, so I was like, "Okay, sure." That's the only reason I even read the message, because my game was already over, and I was able to get him in there. Well, he got that 1 game in, so welcome back. But yeah, still a lot of people with a lot of games left to play. El Craft used to be, you know, pretty popular. This guy used to play. Well, now he never really used to play. I can't even kid that. But Ketwall was usually pretty active. Vikram usually fairly active, would at least get to his 7 or 8. Tom Damon, who qualified the first month, I guess it's just going to assume that he's not going to finish near the top of the leaderboard, and it's just going to wait for someone to pick him. Uh, Brenson, who's qualified before, usually, you know, has all his games in. Same thing with Eric Hunter down here. These guys haven't played any yet this month. So even Kimura is usually getting some games in. Kevin Silverglen with 0 games played. Uh, you know, here we are near the end of July. Silverglen was competing for the points leader last year. Him and Bastion were going back and forth. I believe Justin actually did finish first in the overall points and did get the first pick, because that was a big discussion going on at Worlds between the two of them, was who they were. You know, it was like, oh, who's he going to pick? Well, then I'll just take whoever, you know, is left. Kind of a discussion between the two of them was funny, because Silverland really had no idea who he wanted to pick. But looks like he's going to let somebody else have to worry about that this year, unless he's going to try and cram some games in here at the end. So that's what's going on. Obviously, there's still quarantine leagues and my foil leagues and all that other fun stuff is happening. The other big announcement of the week, before we jump in and see if there's any hyperdrive against TIG, uh, SSA mains against another hyperdrive. Hyperdrive seems to have picked up a little bit in popularity because of its direct counter ability to Watto. Converting the junkyard obviously does make a big difference. Um, I mean, I'm sure there's other ways you could convert the junkyard other than playing hyperdrive. Um, maybe play something that starts Yarna and then deploy a Tatooine battleground and convert Watto's junkyard. Um, something like that, or play Prophet with the rendezvous point helper card, and then just play an extra site and have your extra site be Watto's Junkyard. I don't know if any of them actually say not on table, that you have to deploy Battleground not on table or something that prevents you from converting. I'm just, spitballing ideas here. So, Diplo could do it as well, yes, I guess. But yeah, people feel like Hyperdrive is a good counter to Watto, and it usually does have a pretty favorable matchup because once you, if you do it opening, if you do it turn one, you take away their ability to get the free Watto out of their deck by converting the location. So there's that big benefit there. And then obviously it doesn't have the text to worry about. The not able to draw Battle Destiny text. But I'm sure Watto could play some counters too if it wanted to. Maybe it'll slip in, I don't know, a Cloud City Engineer, and it'll raise your converted location to the top. That's bad. Don't do that. But I'm sure there's stuff out there like that. Or just play a second Watto's Junkyard. Haha. Just reconvert it. Yes, that's where we're getting into berms. Yeah, converting it before they even get that first pull. I mean, you could obviously convert the Junkyard later in the game and then just spend the 8 and send Watto back and hope that they haven't drawn into one by then. Um, but yeah, it does get more complex and you get less value out of it. But the other big announcement this week, hang on, let me get a sip of water, is we have the return of Texas Mini Worlds as an online championship. So Rob Hendon, took a little hiatus. You may remember him as the former host of Hollow Theater before Dan came along. It was a fun time with Rob and Queso. Also used to work with Mike Richards and the guys down in Texas to help put on Texas Mini Worlds from like 2013, 2014, all the way through like 2016, 2017 when they stopped running that event. The player base in Texas just, slowly started to dwindle out and lose interest and move on to other things. And, when you're having a tournament and it's 19 or 20 people showing up and 12 of them are from out of town, it just didn't make sense logistically to keep putting in the time and effort to running the event and everybody flying out to Texas. Obviously, we wanted to have higher turnouts at events, so we started rotating other events in place. Nationals came back, which hadn't been, had kind of floated around, but hadn't really found a home in the calendar. So Nationals kind of bumped Texas Mini Worlds out of the calendar. And that started moving around to, Minnesota and Atlanta and some other places. And so hopefully we get some live events next year. But since we are going to be playing some big events online this year, Rob decided to bring back Texas Mini Worlds. Sign-ups for this are now available in the Players Committee store. It is $20 to play, and all of the rules are kind of laid out here. So essentially, if any of you older players who were around back in 2012, I believe it was, when we ran the MPC, we did a pods of players. It was the one year that wasn't just a standard 64-person bracket. We wanted to expand the field to include as many people as possible because we had like 80 people who wanted to play. And rather than do an extra bracket with an extra round, some of the guys are really into soccer and they thought, oh, it's 2012. It's like the World Cup. I think it was a World Cup year. I don't know. It was either the men's or the women's. Somebody was playing a World Cup, right? It's an even-numbered year. So, World Cup, they do, like a group play, and there's like pools, and then the top people from each pool advance into the bracket for the elimination. So we decided to try that with the MPC. It was met with varying degrees of, enthusiasm. And it only lasted 1 year, but it was great. We had 80 players. So we had 8 pods of 10 people. So you had 10 people in a group. They played a 4-game Swiss tournament, and then the top 2 from each group advanced, and they went into a bracket of 16 players, and then you had a top 16 kind of bracket play out from there. And this looks like it will be a similar style of event. They're going to have pods. They're going to play at different times scheduled kind of staggered throughout Saturday and Sunday. They'll do the same thing. He's assuming if he gets 8 pods of about 10 people, 8 to 10 people, so 64 to 80 people, the event could accommodate. If it does get more than that, I'm sure he'll find a way to restructure it, possibly pushing it to 2 weekends before they get to some type of playoff system. So all the details can be found here. Thanks to Rob for stepping up and organizing this and trying to put together a big major tournament. There will be some cash prizes, etc., and he's hoping to get some other stuff worked out through the PC. I know the marketing team is looking into that to see what they can do to throw something together to hand out some foil slips or something going on there. So Rob's going to be the tournament director. I'm sure we're going to have some commentary going throughout the weekend, possibly even doing 2 or 3 commentaries like we did for the NPC. Get up that multi-channel that thing back again, which I think was pretty awesome. So you've got some opportunities there for both commentary and for people to sign up and play. And because it is it's a smaller Swiss tournament, players will be seated into groups. Each pod will randomly draw one person from each group. Group A would be the top 8 players. Group B will be 9 to 16. Okay. So he's going to try and do his thing as usual to split up players. Okay. So basically, he's just gonna, again, he's gonna have varying levels of skill within each pod. So try and keep everything balanced. So you'll have your, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, etc. seated down, and then cut to top 16 if he gets even more players, because it is online. So why wouldn't a lot of people want to play? He could possibly expand it to 32, and they'll go from there. And here's all the different scenarios for that. Deck lists are required, but you can submit 2 deck lists, and you're allowed each round, each game you play, you're allowed to flip flop between the 2 decks. So, uh, you know, you don't have to use each deck, but you have the option to switch if you want to. That might give you a little bit of flexibility in terms of what you might think somebody might play or might not be playing, or if you just you're playing 4 games, but you play game 1 and realize, oh crap, I forgot a very key card. Well, now I don't have to automatically just play with this deck again and lose the second game. I can switch to my alternate deck and at least have a fighting chance. So lots of options here. ISB versus Mind What You Have Learned. That's a 2.5-hour game. Why would anybody Yeah, that's terrible, Dan. Why would anybody want to watch that game? That's terrible. Mind What You Have Learned. Cancel all the 4 strain bonuses, put projections on sites. ISB, make all the drains -1. All right, ready, go. I'm going to retrieve 1 a turn. Oh, it's a 12-card ISB start. Well, that makes it better. I mean, 12-card ISB is certainly interesting, but how did they get OCS opponents? I can't ever get an OCS game going. But here's all the details. Go to the Texas Mini Worlds thread. Here's the registration info. So all you got to do is go here, click this link. You'll go to the store. You pay your $20, and then you have to PM Rob, who's R. Hendon, on the forums, and send him this following information: your name, your email, your screen name, and then your preferred start time, etc. So he can try and put people into different groups based on their time zones, whatever might happen to be most convenient. I'm going to guess the Europeans are going to want to, since it's all Eastern times, I'm going to guess the Europeans are going to want to play as early in the morning to kind of get their games because they're going to be in the afternoon there. And I'm going to guess your West Coast people are going to want to try and get in these time slots here. But that would make the most sense. But some people are just night owls or, dawn breakers, whatever you want to call it. So, all right. But that's what's going on the forums. Okay. So let's go. Let's take a look. We'll take a peek at this game. What happened to my something special slip sliding away? Oh crap, it needs to be the site. So he started the system so it wouldn't let him slip sliding away. So he gets no effects. Did he have a surface defense to alt start? Or did he just have to play 8 cards? Yeah, he's just playing 8 card with no effects instead of 12 card with no effects because he started the system and slip sliding away requires that you have deployed a battleground site. I'm sorry, a site with 2 icons in order to then get the extra location and all of your effects. So this is going to be a fairly lopsided game because his Hutch isn't even intending to do any of that fun stuff. No one wants to play and lose to me. Yeah, of course. I can understand that. I wouldn't want to lose to me either. You know, Dan, I was like 3 seconds away from clicking on that game. I had just logged out of work. I was getting myself set up, and then I saw, like, oh, look, there's an OCS game. And right as I went to click it, somebody else clicked it, and then you started your game against Sean. I don't know whose table it was, and the other one then clicked it, but it was like a second and a half away from I was going to be playing one of you at 5 o'clock today. But all right, so we got Commander Merijic. This does have a scomp link, so you can use this to pull some systems. Meanwhile, over here we got the standard Jedi training stuff. He's got the training area out. He took Great Warrior. There's the jungle. See who he's going to train here. Is he just got? Is he training? Is he training daughter? Okay, it is daughter. Okay. I wasn't sure. Maybe he was. Maybe he watched that game Dan and I played a couple weeks back, and he's like, "I'm gonna train Devorian, and I'm gonna start playing Sabik from Dagobah." All right, so we got daughter. We got Jedi Test 1 in play. Pretty much an auto complete at this point, unless he's got broken concentration and those 9 cards in his hand. Um, by the way, if you're ever paired up against Scott and you're playing Dark Side, just do one of those Dagobah Cave slip sliding away starts, and then just like wait like a couple turns, and then just slap failure at the cave on him, because you know he's playing by what you have learned. You ended up whooping up Sean. Yeah, I saw the CCT versus Hitco. Yeah, was that your table, Dan, or was it Sean's table that you accepted? Just wondering which one view I would have been playing. I don't remember whose table it was offhand. So anywho, so we got some Jedi training going. This was always a fun objective, and it's one of the most thematic objectives, but it's really just so boring to play against. It's called Dagobah boring for a reason, folks, or at least it was for so many years. It was Sean's table. Okay, so I would have ended up playing against this Hitco. Okay, that'd have been interesting. Marajic's going to pull systems. Okay, so Marajic's getting Bespin. I'm sure then he's got the They Must Never Again Leave This City, which he would normally probably get for his free Executor, which he can't pull because he doesn't have mob points out. So, all right, we're just gonna go back to the lobby because that's gonna be a very lopsided game. They probably should have just canceled that one. Grady should have just quick fixed his deck, and then they should have just restarted it, which Justin did offer to do, by the way. Being the gracious player that he was, wasn't just looking to take the free win, even though he's already, what did we say? He's like 5-2. Yeah, he's right here at 5-2. Didn't want to just take what is probably going to be a pretty free win, given how slow Grady's deck is probably going to set up without any of his effects and whatnot. Um, it's going to put him to 20 points with 4 games left. He'll be 6-2. He did offer to cancel the game and let Grady, fix his deck and whatnot, and Grady said no, thank you. So, but let's move into our featured game of the week. This link was submitted to me. It's Ryder versus Green Tag. It was I was promised there'd be some lightsaber combats. I was promised that we would see some lightsaber combats in this game. We got pod racing too. We got all those broken episode 1 mechanics that we can talk about. We feel like we've talked about a few of them before. I do believe they have everything's been fixed with pod racing and the R2 and Red 5s, if that's the route that they're going. So we got the Pod Racer, we got Boon to Eve. Pod Racing is obviously shielded, and the shield pretty much ruins it. The old pre-reset shield used to be you didn't lose 6, but your opponent didn't you couldn't cancel their retrieval, so they could just retrieve 6. They didn't have to pay for it with secret plans or coward, so it was a free 6 force retrieval. The revised shield since the reset basically just says you don't lose 6. So nothing happens to the dark side for them playing the shield, and light side still has to find a way to occupy 2 battlegrounds and possibly pay 6 force to retrieve. I know not many people really enjoy the pod racing mechanic, but maybe we went a little too heavy-handed on it with the retrieval aspect. Really, the only advantage to playing pod racing now is either A, your one effect you get to start can be an effect that isn't immune to alter. So you could do something like Gunite, which is also shielded, but something like that, or the Echo Base Garrison or something, so you could pull speeders. Not that you'd want to, because at least in this deck, but in other decks, maybe there's another deck where you want to do hyperdrive pod racing with speeders all over Tatooine. I don't know. Watch your step pod racing with speeders all over Tatooine. Those are terrible ideas, folks, but there's some effects out there that are not immune to alter that you could not start. So your options would either be a pod race and do it, or just play the signal and start that one effect as well. But the advantage to pod racing, maybe you get to do the 6 force retrieval, but possibly not. You have to set yourself up for it. And it happens during your opponent's move phase, which makes it even more difficult. Because you're putting the cards on your racer, they realize you're going to win, and then all they have to do is just knock you off a battleground, get you down to 1 or something like that to have coward kick in. But I Did It does still come into play, and that's a pretty powerful card. Again, it's also listed on the shield, so maybe that's the part that could change. The retrieval is still hamstrung, but maybe I Did It gets to come back and isn't so crippled as well. Looks like we got a dark side space deck, Endor Ops here. We see some spacey stuff in hand. All power lets me know that there's going to be some matching ties in here. It's combat response. Kuat to pull a couple systems, possibly setting up some dudes in the bunker to get Ominous out, get force drain bonuses. You could see Mustafar in the castle and maybe one other system. Just for some activation, and then kind of drain, like Kashyyyk or something like that. So you got Endor and Kashyyyk draining for 2, and you get an Ominous bonus to the third system at Mustafar, draining for 3, and either just pay for them or pile some guys up at the docking bay or something to satisfy battle plan. All right. He does initiate the pod race right away, and he is going to take I Did It. Remember, you do have to initiate the pod race. I was watching a game the other day where it was like 2 or 3 turns in, and they're like, why aren't we drawing pod race destiny? It is a declared action. Once per game, either player may initiate a pod race, so you do actually have to declare it and then during the opponent's control phase, you draw your race destiny. For those of you unfamiliar with I Did It, let's take a quick look at that card as well. Deploy on table if you won a pod race. Once per game, you can put Boonta Eve out of play and retrieve 4 force, so you get 4 extra retrieval. Awesome. If you occupy a battleground site and a battleground system, once during each of your control phases, reveal the bottom card of your lost pile and put it on top of your force pile. So it's non-retrieval retrieval that goes to your force pile to give you 1 extra force with which to do stuff for the turn. Really awesome. Especially, all right, the first card might be like a pod race or something like that, but then you start getting into some, some good stuff. Usually, some stuff that gets top decked early that you think is gone for the game. This can help you bring it back, and it can put it on top of your force pile, so then you can find other ways to manipulate it. Maybe you put a high destiny, get a high destiny back, and spend it to play another high destiny interrupt. You put it here, spend a force to play your escape pod or whatever like that. And now you've got 2 5s stuck together, or a 5 and a 6, and then you can sabak. Yeah. And then here's the real kicker: at the end of opponent's turn, opponent must lose 2 force or put their force pile onto their use pile. So they can't save force in their force pile unless they want to lose 2 to do it. Certainly sets up things with draw their fire, because if they have no force available, then you can slap draw their fire down and really beat the crap out of somebody. Again, pretty strong stuff. Probably why it's shielded, and will probably stay shielded for a very long time. So now we're going to draw some pod race destinies. And Ryder's going to stack his 5. If you don't have a pod racer, your cards get stacked on the site. Anakin draws 2 pod race destinies per turn. If you're losing, he gets to draw 3 and choose 2. I hear a deck building challenge. Make pod racing great again. I gave you a deck building challenge around pod racing. You decided not to take it. Or maybe you did. I don't know. I haven't watched your show in a week or two. I apologize. I watched the one with Scott. I didn't watch the last one. All right. He's got Endor Shield out. So we've got a total of 10 over here. You can see the pod race totals, 10 to 5. There's Kashyyyk. Hey, look at that. Oh, and he got a docking bay. He got the 1-0 docking bay, and there's another 1-0 docking bay. All right, so maybe he's not playing the Mustafar Castle. He's just playing in the 1-0 docking bays, and maybe we'll get another 2-1 system somewhere in there, like Kessel or something. I don't know. He's going to draw a whole bunch of cards here. There's a Dark Time, which he'll play to activate 1, just to get another card out of his hand. So we've got Maul Sith Infiltrator. There's Baron. There's I Can't Shake Him. Is this the virtual? Nope, this is the one that deploys weapons. So that'll get Baron his gun. We've got Dark Maneuvers. We've got All Powers. There's a Point Man right there. I probably would have played at some point in time that turn. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards at least in his force pile. Why not just play the Point Man? Put back the Dark Maneuvers combo and see what's actually in there, and then cherry pick the best card out. Because you don't necessarily need the Dark Maneuvers combo right now, especially if you're playing multiples of them. You didn't need a second all power to weapons, some of this other stuff. I mean, you at least could have looked at what was in there and determined, do I want to draw the rest of these cards? Again, if you know your deck well enough, when he verified for when he pulled the docking bay, if he verified his deck, he would know what was in his force pile. But having the Point Man here certainly might have been more advantageous, so he doesn't have a 16-card hand, and he could have left a couple of force available, so he could have tried to deploy stuff next turn. All right. In typical Lightsaber Combat force fashion, turn 1 is Jedi with Lightsaber to one of these 2 sites. Some players prefer to go to the 3-2 because they like to be able to hit mid-level characters and send them to the used pile. Also, they also like to protect against the bigger drain, the drain of potentially 4 if your opponent does come down to engage you. Some players, with their first uh, deployment, will go to the other site because your Jedi are power +2 here. So it gives you a little bit more of a power advantage in terms of winning and losing battles and or possibly getting beat down and taking overflow. Dark side are Jedi are power +1 here, and it is a force drain -1 site as well. Um, it's really more of a player's preference in terms of which one. Kind of depends which one you go with. Like someone like Yoda or something like that, who's a little lower power, you probably go here. Somebody like Qui-Gon, who's already a 6, and your opponent did draw a big hand, but it does look like they're playing a primarily space-heavy deck. Maybe there's an EPP Maul or something in there you might need to be concerned about, but even still, it's probably an okay trade-off. The 3-2 is probably fine. Oh, what was my deck building challenge, Dan? Let's see. I think I wrote it down right here. Win a pod race without using the starting interrupt to start the pod race. So you would have to set it up and do a mid-game pod race somehow, whether it was through something like Senate or Diplo getting the pod race arena and then using used pile pulls and whatever to piece it together, or something like CCT with IG and using your search engine to set that up. So yeah, don't start the pod racing setup, but pull it off mid game. It was reminiscent of a deck from 2000, a Dark Side Senate deck that Yannick Lapointe, who Dan very well played, his Bring Him Before Me deck in our matchup. I'm sorry, his Hunt Down deck in our matchup on the Dan Plays show on Thursday nights on the PC Twitch channel. Uh, did with Darkside Senate when Coruscant first came out. He set up a mid-game pod race with Senate to get the extra retrieval and stuff like that. But usually people had thrown away their anti-pod racing cards. Like, oh, I don't need these anymore. He's not starting a pod race. And then like turn 4, he used Lot Dodd to piece everything together, and he would just be like, bam, pod race. Saboba's pod racer, Watto's box, and he'd be like, uh-oh, I'm about to lose 11. Fun stuff. Good times. All right. So he draws the Dark Time. He stacks it. He's going to go ahead and get his There Is No Tri-Shield. Always useful against combat, especially when you see that your opponent has already stacked a Sense, Recoil, and Fear on the Pod Race Arena, giving you an indication that they are playing some Senses. He's going to get his remaining 1-0 docking bays out of his deck. And he's going to pass all the way to draw, and he's just going to draw some more cards. All right. Still not using that point man. The only advantage to saving point man is to help it block Keep Your Eyes Open, which I guess is a possibility that Light Side could be using to prevent people like Qui-Gon from getting hit. And now he's going to play short-range fighters. So he's got Maul's ship, Saber 1, Black 2, and Black 6. He's got 4 ships in hand already, and now he decides to play the short-range fighter combo to go dig through the remainder of his reserve deck, where he also has Vader's Custom Tie and Black 3 available. Okay, let's see. So he wants Vader's Tie, which I don't know why it won't do him much good. Because combat, you can't drain in space. You can't drain where you have Dark Jedi unless you've got a Dark Jedi there and keep him on the 7 side. And it's not like he can like match up and then land. But maybe he's getting Black 3. That could be a thing too. Maybe he wants to spread out to a couple of systems. Yeah, I think he took Black 3. Yep. While DS piloting and during battle, players draw destiny from the bottom of their reserve deck. Original concept by Bill Kafer. Well, look at Bill trying to be innovative with backwards mechanics. I hope GEMP does that right. Okay, no battle order pulled. That'll be a free drain of 2 from Qui-Gon. He does throw away U-3PO, and if you're wondering why on earth would he do that, it's because the combat objective pretty much just kills undercover spies. Once during your control phase, target one character present with your Jedi at an interior Theed Palace site. Target is lost. There is a shield for this. The shield restricts it to droids and undercover spies. The only people that you can just be like, boom, dead to. The finger of death, death touch, whatever you prefer to call it. But yeah, so as long as they're on, and if they're on the 7 side where they can't do that mechanic anymore, they also can't force drain. So there's not really much of a point to having undercover spies against combat. It'll get better, I promise. I hope so. I was promised some lightsaber combats. Hey, there you go. Now he's using the point man. So he waits till his opponent's draw phase. And now he's going to play the point man and put some cards back. What did he take? He took DS615. So he's got a Tatooine Maul, which again you don't want to put in space. He does have a Tatooine Maul though. Hang on, we got some possibility here. You could duel him. No, dueling is very hard against combat because of the fact that they get the stack cards with inner strength. It's not just lightsaber combat. You can use them in Lightsaber Combat Destiny or Dual Destiny. You can use the cards stacked with inner strength. Oh, he does draw the point man for Pod Racer, so Green Tag either did not draw last turn or did not stack cards that he drew last turn. He may have forgotten to draw, because again, it is optional. He also didn't. Anakin's Pod Racer is a declared action, I believe, during your draw phase. If your opponent has a. Oh, nope, I think that's not a may, so that just happens. So if your race total is less than your opponent's, you draw 3 and then choose 2. But he's certainly, Ryder's certainly keeping him honest here, drawing some high destinies and stacking them. He's got a Baragwin to retrieve all those Destiny 7 bionic hands and Luke's Ewok catapults, intruder missiles. There's the Narshada wind chimes, which is useful when you're trying to pull the Baragwin into your hand. So yeah, so he just drew 2. So now he's ahead 18-14. And Darkside's going to go down with Black 5 and DS615. And we're going to get a Baron and a Saber 1. To Kashyyyk. Spread things out a little bit. And we're going to get a Darth Maul directly in front of Qui-Gon. And Ryder's going to stack a card that I'm going to imagine is Destiny 6 or 7, most likely 7. There is the combat shield. Yoshi, thank you for renewing your subscription. Oh. Hutch got the Executor out and is battling at Mustafar with it. Well, hey, good for him, man. I'm glad he was able to find and pull that off and at least try and make a game out of it. Combat shield. Cancels Gunite, just flat out. Unless Deep Hatred on the table, meaning unless you're playing Dark Side Combat or possibly some type of hunt down dueling or something that might use Deep Hatred. The opponent can only use 1 combat card per turn. So if you're stacking cards too, then you can both stack and use 2 cards. But if you're not using the mechanic to stack, then they are limited to just 1 and have to draw the other one. And then you can only target undercover spies. And 5d6. It's not even droids anymore. It's just 5d6 for the ISB matchup, because they would just put the docking bay or spaceport docking bay, or some decks were even running the Naboo docking bay, and you just throw 5d6 down and then make these drains -1, because it's only, you can only target a character present with your Jedi at an interior Theed Palace site. And so I think they put like the spaceport docking bay on Naboo because it's exterior only, and then you put like 5d6 there, and then these drains are -1, and they can't do anything about the droid. They can still can't, because you still can't zap him like that. But if you're going into all the trouble to get the extra spaceport docking bay, I guess they decided it was okay. At least make you work for it a little bit. And he's just going to play a random dark maneuvers, which will now be the second card from his buried here. So it'll be something and a 6. He'll draw for Destiny. And we should know what that card is, because it's whatever he point manned, I think. Because he played the point man and put a card underneath it. So he should have two pretty good Destinies sitting on top here to survive the duel. The problem is he doesn't have much else behind it to back it up. It's not like that Maul's going to, survive the duel and then battle and beat up Qui-Gon. There's Luke to the other site with his lightsaber. So if he happens to get rid of Maul, we got a lightsaber combat. How does lightsaber combat work? Once during your move phase, your Jedi may initiate lightsaber combat against an opponent's Dark Jedi present. Each player draws 2 Destiny. Loser, the lowest total, loses 2 Force, which cannot be reduced. If the difference between the two totals is 5 or more, lost Force must come from reserve deck and the losing character is lost. So, if Qui-Gon wins the duel, or wins the combat, by 1 to 4, Darkside loses 2 Force, which cannot be reduced. If he wins by 5 or more, they have to lose 2 Force, which cannot be reduced, from their reserve deck only, not other Force used piles. It has to come from the reserve deck, if they have a reserve deck left at that point. And the character is lost. Should also be noted that this Qui-Gon adds 2 to the Force loss when he wins Lightsaber Combat. So if Qui-Gon combats and wins, you lose 4. If you lose by a lot, you lose 4 from reserve deck. Not a good time to have a 14-card hand. Although I will admit, having a larger hand against Lightsaber Combat, not always a bad thing, because it does help you track and set up two good Destinies together to kind of keep your total high. I'm going to guess Ryder's sitting on 11 here, 6-5, between the Dark Maneuvers and whatever he put back. I didn't see what it was with the point man. Qui-Gon's lightsaber also adds 1 to the total. So he's going to use the card he had stacked to substitute, and it's 7. It's Luke's Bionic Hand. Shocker that he's playing multiples of those, because they're easy 7s that the Barrowin can retrieve. And then he's going to blind draw a 5. So that'll give him a total of 13. Oh, he put the Admiral's Order back. Right, the Fighter's Cover is not in his hand anymore. Okay. So he's got 2 6s here. And he activates 15 Force. He's got 16 in his reserve deck, so he can basically keep those 2 cards together. But he does have to lose 4. And this is where it gets interesting against combat, when you're combating against Qui-Gon. Because losing 4 for them doing nothing except drawing Destiny, or making him, pay with Battle Order or something like that, paying to drain to do 4 because his lightsaber doesn't add, so he's only draining for 2. You kind of start to get into that. Am I really better off just letting him force drain? And now he's going to put another 6 down. So now he's got 3 6s together. So we can activate 15. Neither player pulled battle plan, interestingly enough. I would expect... That shocks me. I would have expected green tag to pull it here to make darks... it wouldn't matter anyway because Maul's on the ground. Never mind. Blah, never mind. Sorry. Alright, so we got a Pod Race Destiny here. Swing and a miss. Hey, that's that card that you guys use on that other show. If opponent just used a lightsaber to target, draw 1 destiny, subtract that from their weapon destiny, or cancel mostly armless, or cancel Dark Strike, which is attached to Sniper, end this destructive conflict, or focused attack. Okay. So he will draw and stack that. That puts him up to 21. He just needs a 4. He draws a disarmed. That'll be a 5. So if he stacks that here, which he chooses to, he will now have 26 and be ahead and win the race. Ryder's going to draw his destiny. This is a card he does not know what it is. Now this could be interesting. So we were talking earlier about Maul using his duel ability. During your control phase, lose 1 force to duel opponent's Jedi present. Both players draw 2 destiny. Loser is lost. Well, you just set up 2 6s. It's about as good a time as any. He doesn't have any cards stacked from Inner Strength, and this only adds 1 to the Lightsaber Combat total. So what's the worst case scenario, right? You tie? Maybe he blind draws 7-6? This seems like a very good idea to use Maul here in this situation. I would force drain first, of course, so your opponent doesn't pull the battle order shield and then make you pay for it if Maul, by some miracle, loses this, but the better show. You think your show's better than mine? You think your show's better than mine? It's got a better time slot, I think, but we do what we can. Alright, so he'll get some force drains here. Drain a 2 and drain a 2. Top deck a Luke's Bionic Hand and a Qui-Gon, so there goes 1-7. Did he didn't drain in both spots? Oh, he drained here first. So that's where's Han and Pod Racer Prep were the first 2 that went. Okay, so he drained in both spots. Now he's going to lose a force. Now he's going to go for the duel. Try and get Qui-Gon out of here. This is a good move. I like this move. Especially because you set this all up. You set it all up. I don't know what green tag's space situation looks like, but grabbing this was probably not the right card to grab. The short range combo. He blind draws the first 7. Dun dun dun. Drum roll. It's a 3. Wah, 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 wah. So there goes Qui-Gon, who will get Jedi Resilienced. Oh, he's canceling the duel with the Jedi's Resilience. Wah, wah, wah. That's the other part of a Jedi's Resilience. We all remember this part of you just lost a character, lightsaber, take him into hand. He's using the other part. If you just lost a duel, lose a force to cancel the duel before the duel has any result. So, and if they played an interrupt to initiate, they get their card back. But Qui-Gon will live to duel another day. Now we're going to get a force push. Okay, so we got some options here. Well, you could take Maul and then Persona replace him so he could battle and try and clear some of these guys, or just assume maybe he might die. He's probably not going to die, though. Uh, Sidious and or Vader are also intriguing options. But more than likely not, you're probably taking like an Imperial artillery here. And we're in the deploy phase now. Let's say if we were still in the control phase, I would take the artillery, and then you can immediately play it to make him lose a force, which is good. Plus, it'll put the 7 right there, so then you'll have 6-7 on top of your deck. So now you're at 13, making it more likely that you'll tie or possibly win the combat against Qui-Gon. But that might have to be something to set up for a future turn. The other option would be to take the Dark Time, because then you can subtract 1 from your opponent's total. So when you're still drawing 6-6, you can subtract 1 from their draw to possibly tie or win. I can't imagine any of these other cards being as useful as either of those two interrupts. Let's put back 2 of the High Destiny interrupts, and he takes Sidious. And I'll put Sidious down over there in front of Luke. Qui-Gon's going to get a card stacked. Maul's going to move. See, by deploying, he also broke up his good destiny. He's just going to battle because he knows he's got the 6 there that will crack Luke's immunity. It doesn't get you anywhere. That's my concern with this. Battling Luke and killing Luke, it gets him off a second battleground potentially for the pod race, but you could easily just play Secret Plans at this point because your opponent only has 4 force activated, and then they can't retrieve anyway. He already pulled the pod racing shield, so he doesn't lose any force. So you don't necessarily need to battle Luke here. If you battle Luke, you pull Coward, and that cancels the retrieval because he's only at 1 battleground. But you could just as easily play Secret Plans, and then he doesn't have ability to pay for it, and the force retrieval is canceled anyway, whether he's at 1 battleground or 2. So you could just deploy Sidious together with Maul, and try and overflow somebody in power. But I wouldn't have even have probably gone the Sidious route here. Blastador Kid is always a concern, sure. Maul Strikes is amazing, yep. Have you seen the amazing prizes we give away? If they complete your spelling challenge, yes. They do get some great foil oversized objectives you do give away over there. So that's one of the things that makes your show great. Hollow Theater's a great show. Not knocking it. Not saying that in the slightest. Alright, so there's the Blastador Kid. So they're excluded from the battle. Combat is a tough deck in terms of shields. You want like 7 against it, because you want firepower to stop this shenanigans. You want this stuff to stop the objective and the combat cards. You want this because they usually play sense. He doesn't even have a grabber out to even grab some of the annoying interrupts. If it's the pod racing in one, then you need this to stop yourself from losing and possibly make sure you suspend I did it. So yeah, you need like 7 shields against combat. It's one of those great shield busting decks. But he just let him retrieve for free. Ooh, that's a mistake. I know you don't want to get shield busted, especially if he doesn't have like a cold feet or anything like that, but I would not just let him blindly retrieve all these cards. He's going to retrieve all those cards. He just got 6 free retrieval back. Then he's going to put these cards from the Pod Racer into his used pile in any order he wants. So he's going to put the 7 and the 5 together at least. He can't quite get there though. He can only activate 12, and he's got 17 in his reserve deck. But then Darkseid also gets to put their cards back in any order they want. So obviously they're going to put the 2 5s together near the top, so it'll be 6 5 5 here. But yeah, that would be a mistake letting him get the free retrieval. Oh, yep. You gotta find one of them 7s. That's what you need. Where are they all? They were all in the force pile. There were 3 of them in the force pile. Where are them 7s at? Oh, he does get the dark time here. That could be helpful. There's the 7. There you go. That's what you needed. There's an I can't shake him. Now the flip side is, of course, is that they can only do 1 combat per turn, and they can't battle. So if Maul loses the combat and somehow gets removed, he's going to deploy I did it. The shield's going to immediately suspend it, but at least it gets a card out of his hand, right? And maybe it'll kick in at some point during the game. Alright, now we've got a Yoda. He stacked a card. He's going to blind draw 1 as well. He's not quite to the point where the stuff he put back was. There's another Luke's Bionic Hand. Shocker. He's got 5 or 6 of those. Let's see what he draws for the second Destiny. It's another 7, relatively unprotected. No point in subtracting from that because he's got a total of 15. Subtracting 1 doesn't help in any way. So he'll have 6 5. It'll be 11. He'll have to lose 4. But he's got some ships and stuff in hand that he doesn't necessarily need here that he can get rid of. There goes Thrawn. There goes Vader's tie. There goes Black 2 and DS612. I probably would have kept that one just because he cancels all wings. Actually, in this version, he's probably not playing it. Usually you keep around Black 2 because he cancels the all wings combo, which combat decks usually run 2 or 3 copies of because they play multiple copies of R2 and Red 5 as their pullable, stackable 7. But this guy's going a different route here, so it's okay to get rid of those. He's doing the Baragwin multiple Luke's Bionic Hand version instead. Qui-Gon's going to run away in front of Sidious there, and then Yoda's going to move in front of Maul. Yoda, the guy who's completely... That I'm not sure what the purpose was behind that move. That kind of just makes it seem like Yoda wants to get his ass kicked. Of course, it also makes it seem like more likely he's got another evasion card, whether it's a dodge or a blast the door kit or something. But yeah, you're right. Firepower actually doesn't do anything in this scenario. I'm thinking of the light side version. Dark side version only affects people who move away. So dodge and path and that kind of stuff. Alright, he's going to go for the duel against Yoda. So I guess he threw Yoda over there to be the sacrificial lamb to kind of block the duel. There's the 6-5. Yep, Yep, you don't need to play the Dark Time yet. See what your opponent draws. Oof. He might have a Jedi left for that. He does not. So Maul's going to win the duel. Yoda's out of here. The first thing you would, well, yes, you're going to drain for 2, drain for 2. He's going to drain for 3 here, so he's going to make him lose 7. And then he can slap the artillery. The artillery is going to go sit on top of the 6, so then he'll have 6, 7. And then, if he's concerned, he can spend 1 force to move Sidious. That'll put a random card on top of his reserve deck. And then, when his opponent decides, oh, he doesn't know what that card is, and then, maybe I can get lucky here, and they stack a card on Qui-Gon, and then they move over to combat you. You play the Dark Time, and you activate that force. So now you've got 7-6 sitting on top, and you're in a pretty good spot. Of course, he could just remember where the 2 7s are that he blind drew, if he can get to them. But he's going to be top decking some cards here, so he might be able to set that up. He's going to pitch some cards from the used pile here. You could also just not move Sidious. But my way's a little sneakier. And since you've seen him run an EPP Rays, you do have to be a little concerned of that possibility of him dropping an EPP Ray and being able to battle, because Jedi can't battle while you're on the flip side of the objective, but Rey can do what she wants to. She can leave her friends behind. He's picking up some nice high destiny cards here. Oh, found all those artilleries. And they are 2 dotted, so you can play 2 per turn. So next turn he's going to set himself up nice with double 7s. Yep, there's that Rey. She's going to get barriered. And there's the Han Chewie Falcon. Now that he drew out the barriers, feeling a little safer. I was wondering what kind of space package he would have here. And he's going to miss the Secret Plans opportunity again. Again, maybe not knowing what the combat cards do and whatnot. So I Did It is only suspended while you occupy more battlegrounds than your opponent. So now you're both at 3 battlegrounds. Han Chewie the Falcon shows up. It's the virtual version, right? Yep. So Han Chewie and the Falcon shows up here. Now they both have 3 battlegrounds. Now I Did It is unsuspended. Dark side gets an action. They pass. Light side then says, great. I'm going to put Boonta Eve Pod Race out of play with I Did It's text, and I'm going to retrieve 4 more cards that they don't have to pay for. If he had to pay for it, that would be his remaining force, and nobody would be able to move. He wouldn't be able to battle in space. He would have just had to. He just would have had to skip the retrievals. What he would have had to do, but so he stacks a card under Qui-Gon. We're going to get the battle in space. Darkseid is going to play the all-power to weapons. And now they could potentially target a ship using 1 force, draw destiny, target hit if destiny greater than defense value. This thing is maneuver 6. Well, it's also only immune to less than 5. So now's where you have to ask yourself, do you feel lucky? Can you initiate where? have to refresh. Hang on a second. Well, hang on one second, guys. My laptop decided to lose internet connection for a second. So I think before I lost internet connection, what I saw was there we go. Somebody said something about take the shot, so then you draw the 7 for Battle Destiny. But if you do that, then you're back to just drawing 6/5 over here when Qui-Gon moves over to combat you. So it's almost like what you would want to do is just, you're going to get outpowered. It's just, you don't shoot, you draw whatever for Destiny. You know the cards you put back are pretty high. You obviously don't want him to keep the ship around. That's the biggest problem. But at the same time, you do still have Black 3 and the matching pilot in hand. You have the Gravity Shadow in case he tries to move. You wouldn't really necessarily want to play that, though. And firing wouldn't, to add a Battle Destiny, would not be beneficial there either, because then you'd run out of cards when he moves over to combat. So, I mean, you can end up drawing the 6/5. Probably going to end up losing 4 cards that way. You do still have a few cards in hand that you don't necessarily need, but you are running pretty low on life force overall. I got to think about this one. It's a tough spot, that's for sure. It's definitely a tough spot. Light side's they're gonna add a Destiny to power. We'll assume it's a 5. Assume they draw 2 5s here. They've got a total of 10, so they've got 18. You draw this, and we don't know for sure what it is. It's presumably a 4 or a 5. So it's 18 to 11. You're down by 7. You can just pitch the pilot. This guy covers 7 because the Imperial Arrest Order's on the table. So you're probably not taking any overflow or battle damage there. And then you've got the ship floating here with the gun. And you could, he's flipped. You could throw Vader in it as a pilot and battle this thing and shoot it down, or whatever you wanted to do. So I think I just do that. I think I accept this as the smaller loss and try to protect the inevitable lightsaber combat that's going to happen on the following turn. Yeah, something 765. Can you? It's a tie and any ship. Oh, it's any Rebel starfighter. You could Talon roll it, but then you're drawing 2 Destiny, and then you're back down to the 6/5. The Talon roll, yeah. Target 2 starfighters, your tie LN, which this is, and any Rebel starfighter. Not often we see this card, so each player draws Destiny. Opponent totals Destiny and ship's power. You get your power and maneuver. So this thing is what, maneuver? I think he adds, doesn't he? He adds 1 to it, so it's maneuver 5. And you've got power 7 because of the all-powered weapons, so it's 12 to 8. You're both drawing Destiny. So the Dark Maneuvers is definitely the way to go. Does get you out of a jam here. You still only draw the 1 Destiny. You still protect your situation here, and your combat situation with the 7/6 there after it. So thank you. Good chat. But yeah, definitely right that the Dark Maneuvers combo here, because this is the LN. It's the only one that can use it. The Black 3, can. The Saber 1 and stuff can't. And it puts the 6 back. Oh, it was another 6. Okay, so we had 6, 7, 6, 5. So now we just put that 6 plus the other dark maneuvers is going to go on top of it when the result is done. And the Falcon's out of here. Now Qui-Gon moves over, and now he combats, and now he's still drawn against 7-6. And you still have the Dark Time. There's that Luke's bionic hand again that he's running 5 or 6 copies of. And there's the 5. Now you Dark Time to subtract 1 here, making it a 4, giving him a total of 12. It says 11 in the chat. It's not counting the +1 from the lightsaber. And then there's the 7-6, giving him a total of 13. So Qui-Gon's going to lose. And now you've just set up some massive destinies in reverse order that you could use to have Maul duel Qui-Gon in the control phase, possibly kill him and clear him, leaving Rey hung out to dry by herself, then Persona replace Maul and beat the crap out of her, and possibly end the game. It's not the approach he's going to take. Ooh, interestingly enough, he's going to surprise assault to try and cancel the drain of 2. There's blind draw on the 7. Alright. So now Ryder has got to lose 2 force here. Yeah, you don't need the gravity shadow. He's not even going to try and do... He's going to just, I guess, set up a couple of 7s here together with the Imp Artillery. I like my idea. Let's see. Let me catch up on what you guys are saying over here. Makes the ship lost. Only draw. Yep, the Talon roll. Don't go after Baron because he doesn't have the gun. Yeah, the Saber 4 potentially as the free react can be a pain in the tuchus. If you're seeing ties, it's always a possibility. It seems like this deck is more the tie LN model that we've seen so far with Black 2, Black 5, and I don't think we've revealed anything about Black 3 yet, but from our standpoint, we know it's got Black 3. But yeah, Saber 4 could certainly be a bit of an issue. Free react, it's a second battle destiny. Depending on who's piloting it, if it's like Vader piloting it or something like that, then you can subtract 2 from your draw, and it can get kind of ugly pretty quickly when you go after Baron. In hindsight, obviously, that seems like it's probably the better play. Baron also adds 1 to the total, which for each interceptor, so he'd actually be adding 2 to the total if you reacted with the Saber 4. Sometimes we see, it's not always, but sometimes we do see that combo in tie decks. Yep. Blast the door kid scared, then I couldn't keep my destinies tracked. Oh, I got you. So you're concerned with is that he's got a second blast the door kid. So you're gonna do that persona, like you're gonna duel Qui-Gon, kill him, persona replace, and then he's just gonna blast the door kid and cancel the battle. That's a concern, for sure. He's down to 3 cards in his hand. Blast the door kid is lost, although he has retrieved them because he's gotten the extra free retrieval. He's gotten 10 free retrieval. He's got 27 cards plus 3. Like we're on turn 6 here. We've had all this action, all this activity, and it looks like Lightside really hasn't lost much of anything. They got 14 cards in their loss pile, but they still have so much left to work with, as opposed to over here where it's like basically it's 27 to 14 right now. But yeah, playing the artillery to stack up 2 7s, pretty solid. And he verifies the card there is a 6. It's a never a Yalnal. And he's just going to pick up a couple. Gets the all power back. Gets the dark maneuvers back. There's another dark maneuvers, so he can at least cycle that back. And there's the dark time. I would kind of stop drawing here, I think. He's going to pick up one more artillery. Okay. Yeah. Alright, so now he's found a point man, which he can play at the start of his during his opponent's draw phase to help cycle back some more destiny. But with only having 3 destiny here, Luke runs away to the Boss Nash chamber, and Qui-Gon moves away. So I guess Rey could potentially try and battle. He doesn't want to combat against the 2 7s because he knows he's going to lose. He also doesn't want to let Maul duel him because he knows he's going to lose. He's got a lot of mixed stuff in there. So he caused 0 damage this turn, which is a big turn for Ryder here. And then during the draw phase, now would be a good time to play that point man. Yep. I will activate 0. Ready, go. It's like drain for 4. He's going to Narshada to get a Baragwin. Now he'll lose the Narshada. Oh, he pitched the Baragwin. And the Narshada. Okay, so he just did it to get the lower destiny out of the deck. There's yet another artillery. Could have left Sidious and used the exclude ability. Might have to lose 2 for that, but that certainly was an option. Now he's going to pull Battle Order. Alright, so he's got 775 floating in there. You may not force drain or initiate battle at any location where you have a Jedi, so he can't drain here. He could still pay to drain with Rey. And he will. And he'll just have to pitch a couple cards from hand. There you go. There's Obi. Now he's got a 3rd battleground. I did it works again. Not that it's doing a whole lot, but still can't force drain. There's a Dark Maneuvers, which is unique, so we can't play them both. Oh, it's not unique. I said it was unique in the chat. Nope, I guess I misread that. It is not unique. I didn't think so, but then I thought I saw the dot in the chat box, but I was wrong. Alright. He's going to go for it with the 7-7 with the lightsaber draw. He's got a 66% chance to blind draw another 7 here. And there it is. But he subtracts 1 from it, making it a 6, giving him 13 plus 1 for 14. Darkside's going to should draw the 2 sevens again. The double artillery. And it will be a tie. Not sure what Obi's going to do at the pod race arena. Yeah, Obi was just there essentially to get a 3rd battleground, I think. To possibly make I Did It work to try and screw up his opponent's tracking. And there's the point man. Get that Ozzel out of there. Shit. Nah, he's got the Sith Fury for Ozzel. Overload! Track that Ozzel, baby. Overload for the win. Actually, you don't need the overload. You don't need Ozzel for the overload because Qui-Gon's lightsaber is a 5. But yeah, drawing the 0, of course, would just kill him instantaneously. Now we're just playing the patient waiting game. Light side isn't really doing any damage anymore because dark side's got themselves whittled down to the point where they're tracking the 2 sevens around. I mean, Rey still is getting a drain through, I guess. He's going to throw Vader down as well. He's going to battle. He's going to force him to play the Blast the Door Kid. Everybody's excluded. That's fine. He made him burn another card. I'm not necessarily sure Ozzel's purpose in this deck. I saw Thrawn earlier as well, so I guess it's command for Thrawn and Ozzel. But only Maul's Infiltrator has an extra spot to put anybody. So I'm not sure where either of them really go to then play the commands to limit your opponent from drawing multiple destinies against you or to add a destiny back. Maybe if you've already lost a pilot off one of your ships, you can pair somebody up. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's just Maul's Infiltrator would be really the only spot to put those guys. Not sure if they're needed. If you're worried about that, you could always just play Justice. All right. No drains. Rey's going to battle into a mountain of people. Going to take a swing at Maul. He's going to be hit. Lightside's going to get to retrieve a force. And then it's only a 4 for Destiny. Darkseid chooses not to draw. I guess because they liked the way their destinies were stacked and he didn't want to end up breaking up anything. I think it's the 7s right there. There's the Hoojix. He figured he's got it anyway, right? Otherwise he's not initiating that battle. And these guys are immune, so... Qui-Gon's going to move over. And here comes the... Should be the 7-7 again, right? There's the bionic hand. Ooh. He is still going to subtract one, so I'm not sure if he doesn't remember where his destiny, or if his destinies just aren't on top because of how he shuffled people around last turn. Or he's going for the 5 to get him off the table because his total is only 9 now. Oh, not going to do it. If it was the 2 7s, it'd be 14 to 9, and Qui-Gon would be off the table. But instead it's 7-6, so it's only 13, so it's only a total. Actually, it's not because he has 1 because of the lightsaber, so that doesn't work either. So it's 13 to 10. Vader wins. Light side has to lose 2 force to their own combat. And now you got to move Luke back over. Yep. And light side starting to run out of options here. Not really causing any damage anymore. Oh, he's going to shuffle his reserve deck now. There are mostly 7s and 6s at this point. There's a 5, there's a point man in there too. But he did just sort of lose his ability to track around some stuff. But if he's going to redeploy Maul, he's going to lose that ability anyway. Heck, you could drop Ozzel battle, and you could have played the command and drawn 2 destiny. No. Dark side does not need to really do anything at this point. They are ahead. Just kind of sit on their laurels. Keep doing their drains of 4 in space, and 2 more turns and this game's over. There you go. Get your dark time back, set up your artilleries again, cause some extra force ping, and you'll be back up doing 6 points of damage a turn. So Rey came back. So I guess we're going to see a combat and then a move away. It's going to try and combat Vader again. I think we're going to end up right back in the same spot. Oh, he might be able to... It's going to be a total of 15 with the weapon. Yeah, I don't think the dark time would have saved him because I think it's 7-6 again, right? And this is the Never Y'all Know. Yeah. So the dark time wouldn't have done anything. It'd still be 15-13. So dark side's got to peel 4 cards. They've got some stuff in their hand they don't need anymore. They don't need the gun. They don't need black 3 in the pilot. I mean, I guess you could still throw Ozzel and this guy down, over here to start draining for 1, but you don't really need to do that. It's just hogwash. And now he'll just set up his destinies again. Drain for 2, drain for 2. Double artillery pings. There were definitely a lot of combats in this game, so I was promised some combats. and it did not disappoint on that. Also, excellent use of, excellent ability with tracking some destinies. Again, when you get lower on life force, it does get easier to manage against combat because you can activate and keep looping the same cards around, and this is the way to beat it. Because they don't do any real damage to you otherwise than the lightsaber combat. And I think Green Tag knows his goose is cooked here. He's just going to drop that one last 7 from hand. Oh, it wasn't even that. It was another resilience. And that should basically do it. So congratulations to Berms on winning this game. Excellent job with manipulating your reserve deck and keeping some high destiny interrupts floating around. Certainly an interesting dark side deck. This couple little things, obviously, that we learned along the way, both in different mechanics and how things worked, and of course the benefit of secret plans. But now you'll get your drain of 4 for the victory. Getting that final drain at Endor, which is where you started all the way back in the beginning on turn 1. So that was fun. Thank you very much for sending over the game link. Got to enjoy that. Got to look at some cards we don't always get to look at, which is always a plus. Haven't seen Dark Maneuvers Talon Roll played to Talon Roll people in a while because it only targets Rebel ships. So between, the independent ships we see with Watch Your Step, the Republic ships that we see in WAP and Hyperdrive and those kinds of things with the Queen ship or Anakin, the Bravo guys. There aren't always that many targets, but with Han or the Capital package that most people play, TANF Profundity, they don't ever really get used in that aspect anymore. So awesome job. Thank you for sending the link over. We got to see some combats, a Talon Roll, Maul's using his dual text, all things that make you want to go read the card. And we'll hop back out in the lobby and see if there's anything else going on here. Looks like we're about to wrap things up here. There's an OCS game, Hidden Base versus Huntdown. It looks like Larry. We were just talking about Larry Kraft hadn't played any games yet, so he dusted off the Huntdown deck, and here he goes taking on Mike Turner, who's playing a Hidden Base flip deck. He's got 5 systems out, and he's flipped, which means he can now cancel drains. Visage has already been canceled. This would not be a great spot to be in. We see Roche. Is he playing asteroids? You can get Big One or an asteroid cave. My head hurts just looking at this. I don't see any asteroids out yet, so I don't have to start having flashbacks to that Endor Grand Prix against Joe. But something interesting for you guys to watch if you're still in a spectating mood. Visage is back out. Cause some extra damage. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show for this evening. It's been about an hour and a half already. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. Don't forget to sign up for the Texas Mini World Championship, which is now available on the PC store. And all the details are in the thread we were looking at the beginning of the show. Hope you guys continue to stay safe out there. And we'll see you back here next week. Be sure and tune in this Wednesday night to Hollow Theater. Dan, you want to plug your guest? If you're still watching. I believe Justin is co-hosting one more week. Yeah, I guess he's quiet. All right. Well, Hollow Theater's this Wednesday night, 9 o'clock. Be sure and tune in then. And then Thursday, possibly be another episode of Dan Plays. See who Dan Tartaglione wants to take on in a game of Star Wars. Always a good time and always interesting stuff to see what little scenarios he cooks up with for this week. But you guys have a great night, and may the Force be with you.